Okay, so good morning everyone. Today we will continue discussing the module 2, which is the learner-centered psychological principles, or the LCP. So as you can still remember our objectives, so we have at the end of this module to challenge yourself to attain the following learning outcomes. So first is explain the 14 principles, and lastly is to advocate the use of the 14 principles in the teaching learning process. So we are still not attaining this objectives because we are in under the sixth principles. Okay, and today, of course, we will continue the 7th to 14 principles in order to attain the following learning outcomes. So let's get started. All right. So as you can still remember our 14 learning-centered principles, we have first discussed on our previous video the cognitive and metacognitive factors. That is we have the 6 principles. So we are now down to the motivational and affective factors, which has 3 principles, and of course the developmental and social factors, which has 2 principles, and the individual differences factors, which has 3 principles. So as you can still remember what's on the screen, you can take a screenshot or read it for a while. We will pause. And of course, we will pause for another slide. Alright, so this is the 6 principles under cognitive and metacognitive factors. So we have the first principle is nature of the learning process. Second principle is goals and of the learning process. The third principle is the construction of knowledge. The fourth principle is the strategic thinking. The fifth one is the thinking about thinking. And the sixth or last one is context of learning. So that would be the 6 principles under cognitive and metacognitive factors. Alright, so now I already discussed the first to 6th principles. Okay, now let's focus on, or let's discuss the motivational and affective factors. So when we talk about the motivational and affective factors, so it has 3 principles. The principle 7 to 9. So principle 7 is the motivational and emotional influences on learning. Now we have the 8th principle, or principle 8 is the intrinsic motivation to learn. The principle 9, effects of motivation on effort. So what is the motivational and effective factors? So when we talk about the motivational and effective factors, it is the motivation and emotional influence of learning on learning. So the rich internal world, thought, beliefs, goals, and expectation for success or failures can enhance, interfere with the learner's quality of thinking and information process. So motivation and affection, or the emotional influence, affects learners in every way. So dito madedetermine ang failure or success ng isang estudyante it is because of the emotional and the motivational process. So, pag ang teacher po ay very, very rich sa motivation sa isang estudyante, even though yung estudyante na yun is what we call the novice learners, malaking factor po yun, no? Malaking ambag po yun sa buhay nila. Sometimes in life, hindi kailangan yung magaling, matalino, at excel sa academic or sa buhay. sometimes mas kailangan ang motivation. Kasi kahit gano'n natin kagaling or kahit ang isang learner or let's say na lang kahit ang isang tao gaano kagaling in every way, kung walang nagmo-motivate sa kanya, baliwala. It's very, very useless. Kasi walang nagmo-motivate sa kanya, walang nag-cheer up sa kanya. So, the psychological or the cognitive factor na isang tao ay mapapawalang bisa kung very poor naman siya sa kanyang emotion. Kung very poor naman siya sa mga influences around them or around that person, mababaliwala yung galing niya. Kasi walang naniniwala sa kanya. Alright? So, kindly imagine, kunyari, si Juan, very matalino siya academically and of course in life. Pero walang naniniwala sa kanyang magaling siya. Walang nagmo-motivate sa kanya na magaling siya. So of course, para sa sarili niya, oh my God, hindi nga talaga ako magaling kasi walang pumupuri sa akin. Kasi walang nagmo-motivate sa akin na kaya ko to. Kasi nga iniisip nila magaling ako. So, baliwala yun. Not unless sa mga learners na tinatawag nating novice, yung mga hindi po bobo walang bobo na learner novice learner, yung mga slow lang mag-interact, okay? So, maraming kaya mo yan, you can do it, okay? Nandito lang kami para sa'yo. So, yun yung bali magmo-motivate sa kanya na kaya niya. It's because of the beliefs and the emotional influence, especially sa mga taong nagbibigay sa kanya na yon. So that is the motivation and affective factors. So we have 3 principles. So the first principles under this motivational and affective factors is the motivational and emotional influence on learning. So it is what and how much is learned is influenced by the learner's motivation. Motivation to learn in return is influenced by the individual's emotional states, beliefs, interests, and goals, and habit of thinking. Kasi nga, when we talk about habit of thinking, that certain learner or that certain person is always think that people around them consider them na magaling kasi they can do it. They have this motivation level na mataas kasi maraming nagmo-motivate sa kanya, maraming believe sa kanya, at kaya niyang gawin. That is why may ganon siyang thinking, may ganon siyang paniniwala na kaya niya. It's because of the influences. Now, as a parent, alam mo yung anak mo hindi niya kaya. At sinasabihan mo siya, hindi mo talaga yan kaya. Of course, yun yung influensya mo sa tao. Yun yung influensya mo sa anak mo na hindi niya kaya. Kahit sabihin niya, makaya ko man ito. Pag once sinabi sa kanya or nakasurround sa kanya is negative, of course, ang thinking niya negative, and ang outcome niya or output niya is negative. But, kapag alam mong hindi niya kaya, pero pinagsabihan mo siya na, kaya mo yan, you can do it with my help. Kaya mo yan because we believe in you. Your family believes in you. Your friends believes in you. Then, when you input positivity, the output is positivity. So, ganun lang din po yun. Ganun din po sa sarili natin. If we influence ourselves, tayo na lang po mismo mag-influensya sa atin yung emotional and we motivate ourselves. Kaya ko to. Kaya kong ipasa yung LET exam. And then, you input the positivity, the outcome is positive, of course. Never yan nag-negative. Kaya ko to, kinaya nga ni ganito, ni ganyan, ako pa kaya. So, ikaw mismo sa sarili mo nag-motivate. Especially, ano na lang kaya ang impact niyan kung ang lahat ng mga nakapalibot sa'yo na loved ones mo ay nagmo-motivate din para sa'yo. So, it's very, very big factor on one's personality, not only sa mga learners, but also sa lahat, sa mga teachers, sa ibang staff, or whatsoever. Kasi even though that I am a teacher or others is very successful na, we are still in the process of learning. So, in general kasi itong natin ngayon, ang topic kasi under education is very, very broad. So, in general ito, not unless if gusto mo siyang specific or specify. So, pwede din po yun. But, in my case, okay, as a teacher na tipong I would like to have it na dala-dala ninyo kahit matapos itong chapter na ito or matapos ang semester na ito, I would like you to always think that people around you influence so much about your personality and your attitude and how you motivate yourself and others. Alright, so gusto ko pong i-drive up sa inyo na not only in this subject is mag-e-excel kayo academically but also in emotionally. Sana magiging eye-opener ito sa lahat or sa lahat na nakikinig ngayon na malaking factors ang nakapalibot sa inyo. So if and only if na may mga taong nagda-down sa inyo kasi hindi mo kaya, always listen to those people who always believe in you. Okay? Do not listen to the other people or kung nag-iisang tao lang siya, malaki pa namang apekto yan. Kunyari, sa 10 mong kamag-anak, 9 lang dyan yung bilib na bilib sa'yo. May isa dyan na hindi nabibilib sa'yo. Ay, hindi niya yan kaya. Mabubuntis yan. Makakabuntis yan. Sabi ko sa'yo, pag college yan, nako. Sabi ko talaga sa hindi niya kaya mag-college. Tapos education pa ang kinuha niya. Nursing pang kinuha niya. Hindi yan kaya. Sa isang tao lang na nagsasabi ng ganun, malaki na ang influensya niya. At malaki ang emotional na nararamdaman natin. It's because of the emotional influence. Mali ang motivation, of course, mali din yung ang emotion na nafe-feel mo. Kasi mali ang motivation, walang motivation at all yun eh. Demotivated yung binibigay niya sa'yo. Of course, naapektuhan ka emotionally. Malaking factor yun, malaking influensya yun. Ay, hindi ko pala kaya. So, sometimes, other people, kasi sabi ko nga, every individual is unique. So, depende din po sa individual kung paano niya i-cope up yung isang taong nagde-demotivate sa kanya at the same time, malaking influensya sa emotion niya compare sa 9 na nagsasabing kaya niya. Alright? So, sabi ko ulit, uulitin ko po, sa lahat pong nakikinig ngayon, do not let that one person demotivates you and cause you so much emotional breakdown just because of one person who do not believes in you. Okay? Bago mo mapaniwala yung iba, paniwalain mo muna ang sarili mo. In that case, bago ka i-motivate ng ibang tao, you have to motivate yourself first and then consider your emotion na positive lang and then let others say to you na kaya mo yan and then gawin mo yung inspirasyon, gawin mo yung strength, gawin mo yung motivation and of course yung emotion mo doon ay magbo-burst out ng positivity. It's because of the positive influences surrounds you. Alright? So, ganun din po sa learning. So, under the motivational and emotional influence on learning, so this is the rich internal worlds of thoughts, beliefs, goals, expectations for success or failure can enhance or interfere with the learner's quality of thinking and information processing. So, ito yung sinasabi ko kanina, in-explain ko kanina, no? Nauna lang ako pala. So, in-explain ko kanina, whether it's success or failures, malaki ang influence ni motivation at ni influence ng emotion. So, you have to be very aware of that, especially that you are a future educator, that you are a future parents. Tayo po, as a parents, as an educator, as a teacher, as their guide, tayo po ang malaking impluensya sa mga bata, sa mga learners. Pag sinabi ni teacher, mahina mo sa math, kahit alam mo namang kaya, baliwala yun. Kasi ang words, it's always strikes down. Minsan pa naman, mas nakakalimutan yung physical abuse kaysa sa mental abuse. Always remember that when a sword is sharper, your tongue is so much sharper than a sword. So, kung ang sword po kayang mag-slice ng tao, then, ang mouth mo or ang tongue mo kayang mag-slice ng buong pagkatao. When we talk about buong pagkatao, hindi lang po physical abuse, kundi mentally, psychologically, and emotionally, nag-slice yun. Kasi may mga ibang taong sobrang sensitive pag pinagsabihan natin, and we should be very careful sa mga binibitawan nating salita sa isang tao. Sometimes, pag galit tayo, sobrang galit natin, di ba, nilalabas natin, said and done. Mas mabuti pang, ako as ako ha, mas okay pang batukan mo ako o suntukin mo ako bigla kaysa sa pagmumurahin mo ko at pagsasabihan mo ko ng kung ano-ano. Kasi nga, matagal mag-heal, and sometimes it leaves a scar yung tongue natin, yung nilalabas natin na words. Okay? Pag sinabi mo, joke lang man yun, always remember, joke is half meant. Again, joke is half meant. Sabi natin, joke lang man yun, nasaktan ako eh. Ramdam ko yun eh. Kasi nga, joke is always half meant. Half yun na totoo, half na joke. Dinaan mo lang sa joke, pero totoo. Okay? So, next is the student beliefs about themselves as learners and the nature of learning have a marked influence on motivation. So, motivational and emotional factors also influence both the quality of thinking and information processing as well as an individual's motivation to learn. So, in-explain ko na rin po ito no, nauna lang. Okay, you may take a screenshot. So another, under motivation and emotional influences on learning. So positive emotions such as curiosity generally enhance motivation and facilitate learning and performance. Mild anxiety can also enhance learning and performance by focusing on learners' attention on a particular task. However, intense negative emotion, especially anxiety, panic, rage, insecurity, and related thoughts, example, worrying about competence, ruminating about failure, fearing punishment, ridicule, or stigmatizing labels, generally detract from motivation and interfere with learning and contribute to low performance. So let's talk about first the positive emotions. So as I said earlier, that if you imply or input a positive emotion, of course, lalabas doon positive na outcome. Kasi positive yung pinasok mo eh. So, for an instance, ang bata ay curious. Kunyari lang ha, may anak ka or may pamangkin ka. Tita, what's this? Mama, what's this? Okay, nandun yung curiosity, what's this? Tinatanong niya, ano to? Curious siya doon. So, you always put emotions to that. For example, buwisit ka. Yung tipong, hindi ka nasa mood ngayon. Tao lang naman talaga tayo. Nabuwisit ka. Alam mo, huwag mo na itanong-tanong yan. Bigla ka lang gumanon, nag-burst out ka bigla. Kasi bata ka pa, hindi mo pa rin na alam, kung ano na pinagsasabi mo. Pasok doon si emotion. Pero ang pinasok mo, hindi positive. Negative ka agad. Huwag mo na tanongin yan. Total, hindi mo rin naman kaya yan. So, pasok doon si emotion, pero negative. Natural. Ang pasok din sa mga bata, negative din. Hindi ko pa naman pala kaya eh. But, if you enhance the positivity or the positive emotion by curiosity, it means, kagaya niyan, tinanong, ano to? Oy, that is, sabon. You cannot eat sabon or soap ha, because your bibig may bula-bula. What's bula-bula, Mapi? Well, it's like bubbles, and it's not good for your body because it's soap. Soap is only on the outside surface of your body, not in the inside surface of your body. So, that means soap is not good for eating or in the mouth. So, that's it. Pasok, hindi pala pwedeng kainin si sabon. Oh, natural, sabon yun. Hindi mo naman pwedeng sabihin, natural, sabon yun. Hindi mo naman pwedeng ganunin. I-explain mo nang mabuti because na-curious yung bata eh. So, again, Mami, what's this? It's liquid. It's liquid but still it's sabon. It's liquid nga lang, but it's not for eating din or drinking, ha? It is also for the outside surface of your body. So, andun. Alam niya anong sabon. Alam niya na ngayon anong sabon and what is the intended gamit ng sabon. So, pinasok mo si positive emotion. Okay? Tapos, tuturuan pa siya paano mag-wash ng hands. Andun yung bonding. Kahit sabihin natin, simple lang naman yun, hinugasan ko lang man ng kamay, malaking factor po yun para sa mga bata. Tipong masayahin siya, hinugasan ni mommy yung hands ko, hinugasan ni tita yung hands ko. And of course, by doing simple things sa mga bata or sa mga learners, it can motivate them and affect their performance. Okay, so next line, mild anxiety. So, mild anxiety pwedeng mag-create ng no anxiety at all, but it can create anxiety na talaga. Depende po sa pag-handle ng adults or pagbigay ng emotion or pagbigay ng motivation. Okay, kung ang mild anxiety is napalitan ng positive emotion, yun ang motivation, of course, ma-enhance din po yung learning and performance nila. Sa pamamagitan na pag-focusan mo yung bata, yung tipong paglaanan mo ng oras, not only sa tipong oras na wala ka na ring oras sa iba, ha, yung tipong, Pedro, pwede maiwan ka muna later, usap tayo, laro tayo, parang ganun. So, ma'am, paano namin yan gawin? Ang dami ng trabaho. Sabi ko nga, if you love your doing or your work with you always put heart in everything, putting effort in everything. Of course, you love, you put an effort. Ganon din po yun. You always make a way for everything. Okay? Tipong hindi rin naman napapabayaan yung sarili natin. Kasi sometimes, kahit sabihin natin, wala lang man yun sa akin, maaaring magbabago ang buhay ng isang tao. Okay? Always remember that whatever you do in life, there is one person, one or two or three, basta kahit isang person na magbabago ang tingin niya sa buhay, it's because of how you treat them, how you put love, and how you put actions in everything. Alright? So, si mild anxiety, it can be cured, depende po sa mga nakasurround sa kanya na tao. So, I have a friend of mine, just sharing, I won't drop any names. I have a friend of mine, adult na rin po ito na nag-cause ng mild anxiety. And because of that mild anxiety, yung mga taong nakapalibot sa kanya is hindi tama para sa kanya. So, yun yung term natin gagamitin. Hindi tama para sa kanya. And from mild anxiety down to anxiety talaga siya, then panic, and the worst case scenario is may depression siya. It's because mali yung surroundings niya. Yung mali yung mga taong sinamahan niya. Yung tipong may time na talaga na may umatake ulit yung anxiety niya. Yung tipong umiyak lang siya, tapos bigla siyang, lahat ng nakapalibot sa kanya parang binibigyan niya ng masamang intensyon. Then, yung tao din na yun, sul-sul din sa kanya, ay oo, grabe talaga yan ng taong na yan. Parang ginagatungan pa niya, it adds, that person adds a wood to the fire. So, lalong lumaki ang apoy. So, dapat sana tinanggalan niya na lang ng gatong para kumonti yung fire and then sa kanya bubuhusan ng tubig. So, imbes na ganun ang gawin niya, lumiyab yung apoy, dinagdagan pa niya yung gatong, di lalong lumiyab. So, from the mild anxiety down to anxiety itself, and the worst case scenario, that certain person is demotivated in life. So, ang naiisip na lang niya ngayon na motivate sa kanya is, quote and quote, may pera ako. Yun na lang ang motivation niya. And of course, hindi natin tatanggalin niya sa kanya yun kasi nga yun ang nagiging motivation na lang niya ngayon in life. And I hope for that certain person or people around the globe, especially po na when you're hearing this, okay, when you're hearing this, you can do it. From anxiety, you always have to make sure that you surround yourself with the people who loves you the most, who believes you the most, and of course, who can get rid of that anxiety and depression all over from you. Kasi not everyone or not every person is simply defined with tatanggalin yung emotion mo na positive and papalitan nila ng negative. So there is people na naghihintay lang sa'yo na lumapit ka na tipong yun yung mga tamang tao para sa'yo. So just seek, of course, you just have to ask and it shall be given. Okay? So, I hope then accidentally marinig mo to. This is for you, my friend. But this is for everybody who feel that way. Na tipong may mali. Sometimes you have to evaluate, tama bang taong nasusurround ko? Kaya parang lumalalo yung anxiety ko. So, you have to ask first yourself kung tama or re-evaluate or assess. So, pasok pa rin po dito or present pa rin po dito sa situation na ito, even though emotion ang pinag-uusapan natin, pasok pa rin po sa metacognition. You have to plan yourself. Kailangan naman talagang pagplanuhin yung takbo ng buhay natin kasi hindi naman natin pwedeng sabihin na we never know what tomorrow may bring. You always know what tomorrow may bring, especially that you have a goal in life. Ang tomorrow, hindi naman sinasabing bukas agad-agad. Maraming bukas. Okay? Every tomorrow, you know what it brings. And depende yun sa emotional or sa emotion na ilalagay mo for another tomorrow. If you think tomorrow you will be sad, then tomorrow you will be sad. So be it. If you think tomorrow is a great day, then tomorrow will be a great day. So sabi ko, depende po sa emotion na ilalabas mo, ipapakita mo sa universe. Of course, mababalik yan sa'yo. Alright? So napahaba na gustong-gusto ko kasi yung mga emotion ito. Bakit hindi ako nag-psychiatrist? Diba? Okay. Now let's move down to number 8. Intrinsic motivation to learn. The learner's creativity, higher order thinking, the natural curiosity, all contribute to motivation to learn. Intrinsic motivation is stimulated by tasks of optimal novelty and difficulty, relevant to personal interest, and providing personal choice and control. So, for this one, intrinsic motivation is about or is defined as doing of an activity for its inherent satisfaction rather for some separable consequence. So, intrinsic po ito yung tipong motivated to perform an activity for its own sake and personal reward. Okay? Yung tipong ini-engage mo siya. For example, yung certain bata na yun nakikita mong malungkot. Tapos, nalaman mong magaling siyang kumanta. Okay? So, ano ngayon ma'am, kung magaling siyang kumanta, anong kinalaman dun sa malungkot? Malay mo, malungkot siya kasi nga sinabihan siya ng pangit ang boses niya. Kaya siya naging malungkot, o diba? Masyadong judgmental eh. Okay. So, by that, in-approach mo yung estudyante. Ba't ka malungkot? Siyempre, may mga bata naman or may mga tao naman mag-o-open up kasi ma'am, sinabihan ako ma'am na pangit yung boses ko. Alright. So, intrinsic motivation ipapasok natin. How about magpa-activity ka na ilabas lahat ng mga skills nila? Yung tipong by next week, ilalabas nyo yung mag-practice kayo, kung magaling kayo sa kanta, mag-practice kayo ng piece para kumanta kayo sa harap, and then, kung magaling naman kayo sa sports, mag-practice tayo, then ipapakita natin, we will do a sharing. So that is intrinsic motivation. It is the motivated to perform an activity of its own for its reward. Now, ngayon, yung reward na yun, yung tipong pinupuri siya. Ay, ang galing mo palang kumanta, ang galing. May tinatago ka palang talent, sana tinago mo na lang, charot lang. Hindi, demotivate yun na. Yung tipong, ay, may tinatago ka palang talent, ilabas natin. Pwede tayo mag-practice kasi magaling akong sumayaw. Ikaw kanta, ako taga-sayaw. O di, ang style, interpretative dance. Anyway, so that is the intrinsic motivation to learn. So, when a curiosity, flexible and insightful thinking, and creativity are major indicators of learners' intrinsic motivation to learn. So, which is in large part of a function of meeting basic needs to be competent and to exercise personal control. So, intrinsic motivation is facilitated on tasks that learners perceive as interesting and personally relevant and meaningful, appropriate in complexity and difficulty to the learner's ability, and on which they believe they can succeed because merong motivation. So, intrinsic motivation is also facilitated on tasks that are comparable to real-world situations and meet needs for choice and control. So, educators can encourage and support learners' natural curiosity and motivation to learn by attending to the individual differences in learners' perceptions of optimal novelty and difficulty. So, relevance and personal choice and control. So, of educators, as a future educators, third year or second year, wherever year you are right now, so you are a future educator, so you can encourage and support learners' natural curiosity. When we talk about natural curiosity, ito yung curious nila sa surroundings nila. Of course, we have to put positive motivation and positive emotion. Okay? And always attend that every individual is a unique one. So, iba-iba. Hindi po tayong pwedeng mag-compare na, ay, bakit si Juan ganito, ganyan, ikaw Pedro, hindi. So, never do that. Kahit sa mga anak ninyo, never ever do that. Kasi malaki po yung factor na nilalabas niyan at the end or at the certain period of time. Akala mo lang, okay lang para sa'yo kasi na mo-motivate silang mag-compete sa isa't isa. Sometimes no. Kasi iba-iba po ang approach noon at iba-iba po yung pagtingin nila or pag-interpret nila sa mga words mo. Kung para sa'yo, para yung tipong ma-motivate sila, pero para sa iba or para sa mga anak mo, hindi. Mas lalos lang na mo-motivate kasi puro na lang si Juan, puro na lang si Pedro, puro na lang si Karen, puro na lang si Gina, puro na lang si Maria, paano naman si Marie? Okay? Ganun po yun. You have to be very careful. 9, the last one. So, effects of motivation on effort. So, acquisition of complex knowledge and skills requires intended learner, effort, and guided practice. Without learners' motivation to learn, the willingness to exert this effort is unlikely without coercion. Coercion. Okay. So, effort is another major indicator of motivation to learn. Acquisition of complex knowledge and skills demand the investment of considerable learner energy and strategic effort along with persistence over time. Educators need to be concerned with facilitating motivation by strategies that enhance learner effort and commitment to learning and to achieving high standard of comprehension and understanding. Effective strategies includes purposeful learning activities guided by practice that enhance positive emotions and intrinsic motivation to learn, and method that increase learners' perceptions that a task is interesting and personally relevant. So, when we talk about effects on motivation and effort, pag nagmo-motivate tayo ng isang tao, not only words ang gagawin natin, you always put effort, okay? So, for an instance, may anak kang 4 years old na. Hindi pa siya marunong mag ABCD or hindi pa siya familiar with the alphabets. Hindi mo naman pwede sabihin sa anak mo, kaya mo yan, you can do it. Paano niya you can do it yun? Kung tipong ikaw wala kang effort. As a nanay, as an educator, aside from motivation by words, you have to give a motivation by doing or by having an action. Okay, halika. Kaya natin to. Kaya mo ito. This is letter A. So, tingnan mabuti. Ito yung letter A. A is for apple. B is for ball. C is for cat. Again, A is for apple, B is for ball, and C is for cat. So, dito siya pasok sa considerable learner energy and strategic effort along with persistence over time. Persistence, ibig sabihin, yung consistent ka. Okay? You are willing to do your action. Merong effort. Energy. Siyempre, pag may effort, papasok si energy. Strategy. Because every individual is a unique one. Kahit sabihin mo, ang ganda-ganda ng strategy kong ginawa sa kanya, hindi pa rin niya gets. Sometimes in life, especially sa mga learners, kailangan kung pwede mong tumambling ka sa harapan nila para matuto sila, di gawin mong tumambling ka. Okay, class, this is letter A. Tumbling ka, tapos i-present mo letter A. O, di ba, energy nandun. So, nandun din yung effort. So, strategy mo din yun. O kung tumambling ka ng tumambling, grabe si ma'am tumambling, yan pala ang letter B. O di, natuwa sila dun sa energy na pinapakita mo, sa unique na strategy mo. Wow, tuwang-tuwa sa, yun pala ang letter C. Sabi ko na nga ba, hindi yung letter D eh. Kasi nga, ang focus nila is dun sa strategy mo, kaya nila naaalala, kaya nila natutunan. Kaya din yan, tayo ngayon, pag mag-study tayo ng exam, di ba, may mga kanya-kanya tayong strategy. And of course, kanya-kanyang effort para makasagot ka sa klase. Maliban na lang kung ang strategy mo ay kumopya sa ibang papel. Strategy din po yun. Effort din po yun. Pero ang tanong, nandun ba yung learning? No. Absent si learning dun. Perfect ka nga. Kasi perfect yung katabi mo. At kabilang katabi mo, perfect ka din. Andun ba yung learning? Yes, ma'am. Nandun yung learning. Sa anong paraan? Sa pagkopya. O di, sarili mo yung learning. Pero hindi yan pwedeng ma-apply in general. Okay? Okay po ba tayo doon? Okay. Next, we will rush into developmental and social factors. We have two principles under for this. So we have the principle 10, developmental influence on learning. So let's continue. Sorry for that. So developmental and social factors, we have two principles. The 10th principle is the developmental influences on learning. And the 11th principle is the social influences on learning. So what do we mean by this? Okay, what do we mean by this? Developmental Alright, so this means the condition and the variables that influence emotional, intellectual, and social and physical development from conception to maturity. So, eto po, dito tayo papasok si Sigmund Freud. Okay? Papasok dito si Sigmund Freud. Later in this video, ipi-play ko din po yung kay Sigmund Freud. So, it is the conception to maturity kasi nga development. Okay? Pag sa conception pa lang, namatay na yung bata, so walang development, walang factors, walang social factors ang nangyayari. So, it is all throughout your lifelong. Diba sabi nga, diba? Developmental is plasticity or plastic. So, when we talk about plastic, hindi po yun plastic, yun yung kaibigan mo, ha? Or yung kapitbahay mo na may kailangan lang, saka lang lalapit sa'yo o saka lang maglalambe. Hindi po ganon. Ang developmental is plastic. It is the malleable or the changeable. Kaya nga, if in every change or in every changes of individual, there is a development. Alright, so of course, development is a lifelong process. Or pag tipong sinasabing lifelong, as long as you live, as long as may buhay pa, there is a development. So it is from conception to maturity. So example for this is the inclusion of the parental attitudes in stimulation, peer relationships, learning experience, recreational activity, and the heredity of the predispositions. So nakadepende po ang learning mo sa mga taong nakapaligid sa'yo. Okay? What about that, ma'am? Bakit nakadepende sa kanila? Pwede naman akong matuto sa pamamagitan ng sarili ko, may school naman. Always remember that there is only this quote, that you tell me who your friends are and I tell you who you are. Hindi lang po ito sa friends na tinutukoy. You tell me who are the people surrounds you and I tell you, Bisaya, I tell you who you are. It is because they influence you. Socially ha, and of course, sa pamamagitan nun magde-develop ka. Okay? For example, ano ba isa po? For example, yung mga barkada mo ay yung relationship mo sa barkada mo, pasok na si social dun ha, kasi nakikipag-socialize ka, ay grabe ka intimate. Na tipong anong ginawa ng barkada mo, gagawin mo din. Okay? Andun yung development kasi may change sa sarili mo. Hindi ka naman ganun dati, pero yung barkada mo is na-impluensyahan ka and malaki ang factors doon. Malaki ang development doon kasi nga, sabi, development is plastic. It means malleable or adaptable. Na-adapt mo ang current situation mo or ang current mo na ugali or attitude ng mga barkada mo, na-adapt mo. And that is social factor. And pasok si developmental pa rin doon. Alright. So, developmental influence on learning as individual develop. There are different opportunities and constraints for learning. Learning is most effective when differential development within and across physical, intellectual, emotional, and social domains is taken into account. So, sabi nga dito, malaki. Physical pa lang kaagad. So, let's talk about the physical. Yung mga barkada mo mahilig mag-crop top. Okay? So, ikaw, as pinalaki ka ng mga magulang mong hindi naman sanay sa crop top, nagkakaibigan ka lang nagka-crop top, of course, in order na mapansin din, nagka-crop top ka din. So, development under physical. How about the intellectual? Okay, example, positive naman tayo ha. Hindi ka mahilig mag-aral. Okay? Ikaw yung tipong, saka na ako mag-aral pag may exam na, pag nandyan na yung quiz, saka na ako mag-aral, madali lang naman. 0 kung 0, 75 kung 75, aanhin mo yung 95, kung ang passing grade 75, di sobra-sobra na, aanhin mo din yung sobra. Diba ganon? May mga ganong intellect tayo, or may ganong pananaw tayo, perception. And nakabarkada ka, or nakakaibigan ka, or nasurround ka ng mga kamag-anak na nagmo-motivate sa'yo. At the same time, aral tayo, study tayo as bonding. So, natuwa ka kasi, sige, kasi may development nangyayari. Uy, maganda pala. Iba pala pag perfect ko sa test. Sige, mag-aaral na lang ako. Yun yung bonding natin. So, andun yung intellectual na de-develop din. How about the emotional? Malaki ang factor ng mga taong nakapalibot sa'yo, as I said earlier, sa emotion mo and sa learning mo. And, of course, sa development mo. And, of course, the social domain. Pasok yan, ha? Kung sino yung mga nakapalibot sa'yo, malaki din ang development. Pag once ang nakapalibot sa'yo is negative, malamang development mo is negative din. Pag positive naman po, malamang positive din. Okay. So, as you can see on the screen, it explains the 4 dots. Okay. It explains the developmental influences on learning. So, you may pause for a while. You may take a screenshot. Okay, another Early and continuing parental involvement in schooling and the quality of language interactions or two-way communications between adults and children can influence these developmental areas. So, you have to be very careful of the language that we use. May bad language tayo, may good language din po. Ano po yun ang bad language? Yung magmumura, pangit man yun, bad man yun siya. Quality nga, di ba? Quality. Is it bad or good? So, pag magmura ka, is it bad or good? Of course, it's bad. Never naging good ang mura. So, two-way communications between adults and children. Two-way, may receiver, may sender. And then, from sender to receiver, it is very important sa mga bata na merong communication between the adults. Alright? Kasi wala namang kagaya niyan. Si JC, okay? I-example natin si JC. Nung bago pa lang kaming kasal mag-asawa, alright? Bago pa lang kami nagkasal mag-asawa, ang attention ko wala masyado kay JC, wala masyado sa anak ko. Kasi nga, bago pa lang kaming asawa. And I know, hindi po excuse yun. Nanibago ako sa motherhood, pero mas nag-enjoy ako nung time na yun as a couple kami mag-asawa. So, hindi ko masyado natutukan yung anak ko. Hindi ko siya naturuan paano magsalita. Hindi ko siya naturuan paano do the action. And of course, walang halos development nangyayari doon. It's because there is no such way as two-way communication between JC and I. So, as you can see, it can influence in every area sa bata. So, matagal siya nakapag-ano. And then, the sooner I realize, kaya pala siya hindi masyadong nakakapagsalita. Baka ako din ang may kasalanan kasi hindi rin ako nakikipag-usap sa anak ko. So, as soon as I realized that nangyayari, so of course, inagapan ko kaagad as a parent. And ganun din po as a teacher. Kailangan may two-way communication kayo sa mga learners ninyo. Kasi pag hindi nyo yan naagapan, natapos na lang ang school year, wala siyang natutunan sa'yo at all. Kahit pa sabihin nating advice na lang in life. Kasi walang nangyayaring two-way communication. And that is one of the major or the important factors ng isang tao. Kagaya din sa mga syota nyo. Kung hindi kayo nakikipag-usap, kung sinasarili mo lang na may mali na sa kanya at walang communication ang nangyayari, doon papasok ang pagiging malabo. Wala na doon yung spice ng love ninyo. Kasi nga, there is no such way as two-way communication. Wala nang communication. Hindi na kayo nakikipag-communicate kasi you are tipong na masyado na kayong kampante na we love each other and where is the communication? At nakita niya yun sa iba na pinaglalaanan siya ng oras makipag-usap whether through good times or bad times. Nakita niya yun sa iba at nagbago yung feelings niya towards sa'yo. It's because of this minor lang siya na problem, the two-way communication. That minor problem become bigger and of course, pangit na siya tingnan. So, nawawala yung spice. Ganon din po sa magsyota. And ganon din po sa mag-teacher and student or parent and daughter or son interaction. So, it is very important ang two-way communications. Now, we have the awareness and understanding of developmental differences among children with or without emotion. Physical or intellectual disabilities can facilitate the creation of optimal learning context. So, awareness and understanding of every individual is very, very important. Especially sa mga teachers, never compare your students or your teachers. Si ganito, ganyan. Si Maria, talaga yan siya, compare kay Marie. Si Jane, tsaka si Jean, magkaiba. Kahit sa pronunciation, never yan naging Jane. Okay? So, iba-iba po. So, as you can see, malaking factor po. Never compare. Even your daughter or your son, never compare. Kung mag-compare ka man, let's say, gamitin natin ang dalawang anak ko, si Diana at si JC. Si Diana matalino, no? As a parent din, kailangan mong salagin yun. Yes, matalino. Both of them matalino. Si Diana, matalino siya sa ganito. Si JC naman, matalino siya sa ganito. It is your responsibility that you are aware and understand the difference of every individual. As a parent, as a teacher, you always understand na tipong kailangan mong i-motivate sila. Kailangan mong intindihin na si ganito ay magaling dito na area at si ganyan naman ay magaling dito na area. And of course, by that, mas mapapa-enhance mo yung skills ng bawat isa. At wag na wag mo yung tipong, "Hey, Diana, bakit si kuya mo magaling sa ganito, ikaw hindi?" We should respect every differences. Okay? Iwasan po natin yun. And sometimes, let's talk about jowa-jowa. Diyan, minsan nagkakalabo-labo kasi minsan kino-compare mo yung past mo sa present mo. You always appreciate what's meron ka at what's anong wala ka. Ganun din po sa every individual. You have to appreciate that certain person, kung ano man ang wala siya, na meron naman sa iba, at kung meron naman sa iba na wala din, kung meron naman sa iba na wala din siya. You have to appreciate the differences or the unique individual differences. Okay? Kanina para kung ayoko na lang magbanggit, politiko yun eh. Ang gulo. Ano mang meron siya na wala sa iba at yung iba naman na wala siya, meron, basta yun na yun. Okay, let's move on. Ang gulo. Let's move on. Now, the last one, social influences on learning. Learning is influenced by social interactions, interpersonal relations, and communication with others. So learning can be enhanced when the learners has an opportunity to interact and to collaborate with others on instructional tasks. So learning settings that allow for social interactions and that respect diversity, encourage flexible thinking, and social competence. In interactive and collaborative instructional context, individuals have an opportunity to for a perspective taking and reflective thinking that may lead to a higher levels of cognitive, social, and moral development as well as self-esteem. So, quality personal relationships that provides ability, trust, and caring can increase learners' sense of belonging, self-respect, and self-acceptance, and provide a positive climate for learning. So, let's talk about dito ang pinaka-nakakot ng attention ko eh. Higher levels of cognitive, social, and moral. So, marami tayong tinatawag na quotient. Ano yung quotient, ma'am? Yun yung intellectual quotient or the IQ. Cognitive po yun. The EQ, o hindi po yun EQ yung diaper ha. Yun po yung EQ, the emotional quotient. And pasok din po kay emotional quotient ang yung tipong you have to socialize or makikipagkapwa-tao, the social emotional quotient. Okay? Yun, malaki ang factors din nila. Okay? Magkaiba sila. May mga tao or may certain learners na mataas yung level ng IQ nila kaysa sa EQ nila. For example, matalino siya academically, theoretically. Pagdating sa performance, pag sinabihan siyang mali, nasasaktan kagad siya. Umiiyak kagad siya. Insensitive kagad siya. Demotivated kagad siya. So, baba yung EQ niya. Pagdating naman po, magaling siya sa academic, magaling naman po siya sa emotional. Pagdating naman po sa pag-social, pakikipagkapwa-tao, kulelat naman po siya. So, nandun din sa development. And self-esteem. So when we talk about self-esteem, it is the self-confidence, tiwala sa sarili. So always remember, pag mayroon dyang mataas at mayroon dyang mababa, na apektuhan din po si self-esteem na yun. Yung paniniwala niya sa sarili niya o yung believe niya sa sarili niya. Okay, malaking factor po doon. Dapat pantay-pantay lang. Hindi masyadong mataas yung isa, hindi naman masyadong mababa yung isa, dapat pantay lang din sila. Okay. So, number 11 or principles 11 explains a lot from this slide. You may take a screenshot. You may pause this video for a while to read. Okay. So, now let's talk about the individual differences factors. The last factor in the LCP. Alright. So, ito na yung mga principles niya, hindi ko nalagyan, sorry. The 12th principle is the individual differences on learning. The 13th is the learning and diversity. And then the last one is the standards and assessment. Okay. So, individual differences in learning, learners have different strategies, approaches, and capabilities for learning that are function of prior experience and heredity. So, individuals are born with and develop their own capabilities and talents. We all know that. Sabi ko nga, paulit-ulit, unique ang every individual. It's because of every individual's differences. So, in addition to this, through learning, the social acculturation, they have acquired their own preferences for how they like to learn and at peace at which they learn. However, these preferences are not always useful in helping learners reach their learning goals. So, kagaya ng sinabi ko kanina, again, example ko, yung mag-exam ka or mag-study ka ng may iba doon, gusto nila mag-study ng tahimik para may matuto. Okay? May iba naman doon, gusto ng rock and roll na sounds habang nag-study para may matuto. May iba naman, yung tipong nakikinig lang sila sa ibang tao para matuto. So, may mga ganun. Okay? They have acquired their own preferences for how they like to learn at the pace at which they learn. Okay. Educators need to help students examine their learning preferences and expand or modify them if necessary. So, pwede din po si teacher na tipong i-modify niya. What do you mean by modify? Yung ipapa-enhance pa niya lalo. Na tipong, okay, magaling si Pedro sa ganito, nag-aaral siya ng ganitong style. How about lalagyan ko siya ng i-combine ko ang dalawa? Paano kaya yung mangyayari? So, educators or the teachers can modify that one. So, in order to learn the learners. Now, the interaction between learner differences and circular and environmental condition is another key factor affecting learning outcomes. Educators need to be sensitive to individual differences in general. They also need to attend to learner perceptions of the degree to which these differences are accepted and adapted to by varying instructional methods and materials. So 13, learning and diversity. Learning is most effective when differences in learners' linguistic, cultural, and social backgrounds are taken into account. So the same basic principles of learning, motivation, and effective instructions applies to all learners. However, language, ethnicity, race, beliefs, and socioeconomic status all can influence learning. Careful attention to these factors in the instructional settings enhances the possibilities for designing and implementing appropriate learning environment. So as a teacher, you have to be very careful on what materials that you are using when teaching or giving ang instructions. Especially sa mga examples. Never ever do na tipong nagbibigay ka ng example na ginagawa mo yung kultura. Pinagkukumpara mo yung kultura, pinagkukumpara mo yung the way nila magsalita ng bawal po yun. Pangit po din pakinggan yun as a teacher. And of course, Hindi po pwede na pati yung social backgrounds ay papakialaman mo. What do you mean by social backgrounds? Ito po yung mga tipong, ay, si Maria, mayaman yan, kaya yan matalino. Si Marie naman, kaya yan slow learner kasi nga, mahirap din yan siya. Never ever do that in front of your children. Or kahit sabihin natin hindi naman in front, yung tipong i-compare mo sila patago, never. Okay? Culture, paano sila magsalita, at saka social background, dapat yan po ang pinagtutuunan nyo ng pansin na hindi nyo sila ikukumpara kahit anong mangyari. As you can still remember the chaos na poem. Ano po pala yung ano nyo doon, ma'am? Ano yung point nyo doon? Is it you're laughing at us kasi hindi namin mabanggit yung creature? Kasi sabi namin creator, or ang point mo doon is mas magaling ka sa amin at mas gamay mo yung poem? Hindi po. Okay? Ang dinadrive out ko po dito, as I said, that is the words na nami-mispronounce every individual. And when we talk about every individual, kasama po ako doon sa individual na yon. Okay? Never ko po din kayong kinumpara na si ganito mas magaling sa stanza na ito at si ganyan naman kulelat sa stanza. Hindi po. Doon po natin i-compare kung tipong hanggang gayon na level, creature ba ang pagbasa nyo doon or creator? It's because, ma'am, kuyonon po ako. Bisaya kasi ako, kaya yung E nagiging I, yung I nagiging E. Let's not post yung tipong hindi tayo dapat mag-focus sa kuyonon ako o Bisaya ako, Ilocano kasi ako, Bisaya kasi ako, Waray kasi ako, Tagalog kasi ako. Hindi po dapat. Let's not stick on that tradition. Kasi never naging excuse si culture. I myself, Bisaya po ako. And I would like to know, of course, the language of kuyonon. And I would like to know other languages or other cultural languages na tipong Muslim ba yan or whatsoever. Gusto ko rin pong matuto. But never ko pong ginawang excuse na Bisaya kasi ako kaya ang motivation nagiging motivation. Hindi po yan siya excuse. And of course, as a teacher, hindi rin po talaga excuse na i-compare mo si student number 1 kay student number 2. It's because ang kultura ninyo ay iisa ni student number 1 at nire-reject mo si student number 2. Okay? Inside the classroom, they are all individuals, they are all unique individuals, and of course, they have their own cultures, tradition, and belief. And as a teacher, you have to respect that. Okay? So as a teacher, you have to pay attention in every cultures na nandyan. At dapat walang bullying ang nangyayari. Even you as a teacher, never ka dapat mambully kasi dahil lang sa kultura. Pwede mong i-correct in a general manner. Pwede mong call out ang attention if gusto mo siyang turuan, personal. Pwede din po yun. But never ever point out, hindi mo kasi mabasa to kasi Bisaya ka. Hindi mo kasi to mabasa kasi kuyonon ka. Hindi mo kasi mabanggit-banggit ito kasi Tagalog ka. Hindi po pwedeng ganon. Never ever use and abused because of culture, because of their social background. Hindi mo kasi alam to kainin kasi mahirap ka. Alam kasi ito kasi mayaman to. Hindi dapat ganon. Okay? As a future educator, you have to be very responsible and of course, take a precaution in every move that you have, especially kung may nasasagasaan kang kultura na syempre nasasaktan din naman yung iba dyan na tipong mala full blast talaga na ay Ganun ang tingin niya sa mga Bisaya. Ganun ang tingin niya sa mga Puyonon. Hindi mo alam malaking impact yun sa mga learners na yun. And sometimes, mas pinili na lang ng iba na hindi na lang mag-aral because of what we call quote-unquote bullying kay ma'am kaagad. Di nila kinaya. Kasi mas mahal nila yung kultura nila kaysa sa matuto sila. I'll keep my culture and you keep your knowledge, ma'am. I drop out. Ganun lang yung mga certain na estudyante. Pero ang sa totoo lang, sometimes in life, mas magaling po ang estudyante kaysa kay ma'am. Kasi may kanya-kanyang galing na kayo, tapos dinadagdagan lang eh. Okay? Alright. So, pangalawa, when learners perceive that their individual differences in abilities, background, culture, and experiences are valued, respected, and accommodated in learning tasks and contexts, levels of motivation and achievement are enhanced. So, the 14th and last standard in assessment, setting appropriately high and challenging standards and including assessing the learners as well as learning progress, diagnostic process, and outcome assessment are integral parts of the learning process. So as you can see on the screen, it explains to all the 3 bullets. Another 3 bullets for the 14th standards and assessment. Okay. Bakit importante ang standard and assessments? Why is it important in every learning? And of course, it has the parts. Kahit sa lesson plan, may part siya, diba, assessment. It is because we have to judge not only the learners, hindi yung judge na tipong, hey, ang itim niya, hey, kulot ang buhok. Hindi po gano'n na. We have to judge or to evaluate the success and the development of every learners. Not only the learners, but also the strategy of a teacher. Kung appropriate ba siya, kung hindi ba siya satisfied, kung hindi ba na-attain ng strategies na yon, saan ang weakness ng student, at saan ang weakness ni teacher, saan ang strength ng estudyante, at saan yung strength ni teachers. So, kaya may assessment at the end of everything, not only lesson planning, not only in discussion, in everything. Kahit pagkatapos ng buong araw mo, i-assess mo yung sarili mo. Am I doing it right? Did I say it right? Did I do it right or correctly? You have to assess and then try to reflect. And then pasok din po doon. Present pa rin po si metacognition. Sabi ni metacognition, present! Okay. Kasi nga, you have to assess, reflect, and then plan again, then monitor, evaluate, reflect, pasok ulit-ulit. Paulit-ulit lang si metacognition. Sabi ni metacognition, present pa rin po ako! Present! Okay, never naging absent si metacognition, especially pag may assessment ang nangyayari. Alright. So, Alexander and Murphy gave a summary of the 14 principles and distilled them into 5 areas. Sinummarize ni Alexander and Murphy ang 14 principles. So, and it distributed 5 areas na lang. The knowledge base. One existing knowledge serves as foundation of all future learnings. The learner's previous knowledge will influence new learning, specifically on how he represents new informations, makes association, and filters new experiences. So, it explains a lot. Especially that sinabi ko nakaraan, di ba, paulit-ulit na lang, na meron tayong certain strategy or nandito na sa ating pagkatao na tipong ginawa kong foundation, sige, tipong alam ko na to, in-enhance ko pa, ginawa ko siyang strength, at the same time, nadadagdagan ng panibagong kaalaman, nadadagdagan ng another foundation, kumapal, kaya hindi natitibag yung alam ko. Okay. So, depende na rin yun sa kanya or sa pagkatao kung paano niya i-absorb ang new information at tipong, if-filter, alam niyo yung filter? Yung salaan, kung anong mga unnecessary na information tapon. Yung mga natira, yung nasala na ni-refine, another na naman to, nakaalaman ko. Then, masiserve siya as a foundation all throughout my life. Alright? Pasok pa rin po si metacognition doon. Present! Okay, next. Strategic processing and control. Learners can develop skills to reflect and regulate their thoughts and behaviors in order to learn more effectively. Metacognition. Pasok pa rin si metacognition. Present! Okay. Present pa rin po ako. Motivation and effect. Sinummarize lang ito ni Murphy and D. Alexander. So you may take a screenshot. Yung pinambabanggit dito sa third, fourth, and fifth, nabanggit ko na rin po ito sa previews natin kanina. Hindi po sa previous video, sa previews natin kanina. Parang inano lang nila, parang summarize pa talaga. So, very, very short na siya. So, alright. So, thank you for listening for me today. I hope you learned something from the LCP or from learner-centered psychological principles. So, I hope you learned something from this. I hope you stay well and stay safe, everyone. Have a great day ahead. Babush!